All right, cool. So this one is about Human Ad Server, which is a card game based on ad serving. This is me. I'm Ben. I joined FreeWheel about 6 years ago as an employee 80-ish. I currently lead business analytics at FreeWheel. And you'll see, like, one of the patterns is I think every slide has exactly 3 bullets. So I added in like a third bullet. I like games, I like terrible jokes, and I like good jokes in that order.
Was your comment about patterns meta because you have patterns on your shirt as well?
Ah, yes. Yeah. That's a dangerous field to go into.
But I'm
no respect. Yeah, no respect, no respect. Okay. So this talk, I'm going to go over Human Ad Server from the perspective of a hackathon project and what our goals were. I'm going to talk about games in general and why they're a really powerful medium for education. Which sounds boring, I know, but it's not. We'll have fun. And then what we learned about the product itself through making and playing the game. And then, this is going to be relatively short. We're going to have the first ever Human Ad Server real-time bidding tournament in this very room. So the winner will get a copy of the game. Okay. So we were on team DEMO-Gorgon, and we had 3 hackathon goals. 1 was do something ambitious. 2 was we wanted to have a team for technical and non-technical people to be a part of. And 3 was we wanted to create something that had legs. So we wanted to create something that we could actually work on and play with after the hackathon was over. The ambitious thing that we chose was teaching people about ad tech, which is very, very hard. I've been working here for 6 years, and my parents still don't really know what I do. So, not for lack of trying, it's just a very hard problem to solve. And it's a hard problem to solve because ad tech is really complicated. It's done in a work environment, and work environments are traditionally, there's anxiety, it can be scary. You're not in a great environment to learn. And the third is, ad tech is super alien. Right? No one really gets into ad tech and is like, oh, this is just like when I was, doing ad tech back home on the farm. You never really have things that translate over really well to this. So you're not really set up to be accessible. So let's talk about why we chose a game. Here's my obligatory XKCD. I'll give you a second to read it because it's among the best. The gist is that you can make anything fun with games. So, to compare games and work, work is grueling. It's something you do for the weekend. Games are fun. There's something you do on the weekend. Work is hard, but a game is challenging. Work can be complicated, but when a game is complicated, you say it has depth. Right? So, if you haven't bought this yet, I'm going to give you 2 more examples of games that if this was work, you'd be like, oh, that's ridiculous. Okay, so Tough Mudder. This is something that people do for fun. It's essentially a weekend that you pay to go through hell, right? It's like there's fire, and you're sweaty, and you're dirty, and like no one would ever want that job. But it's really fun to do, apparently. And the other thing is, like, boxing. Boxing is another game, right? No one would ever, like, if this was your job, you'd be in HR every day. Like, my boss hit me again. I don't know what happened, right? But this is something that people pay for, and they really enjoy because it's in the context of games. Okay. So now I'm going to tell you about how games can take something that's very alien, something that's very hard, and make it accessible. All right, so here's the following game we're going to tell you about. So we have the numbers 1 through 9. We're going to play the following game. 2 people are going to play, so I'll need 2 volunteers. Volunteers before I tell you the rules of the game. I'll play. Anybody else?
Okay.
Jennifer, okay. So the rules of the game are we're going to go back and forth picking numbers. When you pick it, it's no longer eligible for the other person. And the first one of us to select 3 numbers in our set that add up to 15 wins. Would you like to go first?
So it can be in any order that you...
Right, so like an example, 3, 8, 1, 4 is winning because 3, 8, and 4 are 15. Okay, so you wanna play?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else should play, I don't want to play. Go ahead. Yeah, okay, you go first. 5, Jennifer, what's your pick?
6.
Okay.
Can I give up?
You can concede. You can concede.
No.
Because the point is that this is really hard, right? What if I told you that you've played this game before, and what if I told you that there are people in this room that can play this game and never lose? What if I changed the way these were arranged to this? This game is exactly the same as tic-tac-toe. You have all played this game. Some of the people in this room are probably really good at this game, but when it's shown in a different way, it becomes really hard. This is what's called an isomorph, and you can solve a problem in a different way that's more accessible. Okay. I'm going to give you another example of this. The other example is something called Foldit. Foldit blows my mind. Foldit is a game that uses people to solve protein folding problems, right? It sounds crazy. So there's something that, go Team Human, right? So you always hear about where, like, well, poker was solved by a computer, or AlphaGo, or chess, or checkers has been solved. So we've found something, protein folding, that computers aren't good at, but people are really, really good at it, right? So they found this problem that people were working on for a very long time, and they turned it into a video game. And over 3 weeks, like some HIV research that had taken years was like solved. So I'm going to show you what this game looks like. And it's a game where you guys compete
Against dogs.
Okay, so this is the game.
Wow.
We're really good at this because we're very good at spatial relations, and we can see how things are kind of formed in space. And so you play this game, you'll drag these things around, and your score will change. You'll say, oh, you crashed, and you'll say, okay, I'll try again. You're trying to create these hydrogen bonds without things crashing together. And then, I haven't beaten this level yet, so I'm not very good at this. And there's like cool things like wiggle, and it'll wiggle, and you'll be like, okay, well, I got 55 points for wiggling. And then you'll shake, and it'll do some shaking, and there's a high score list. And after 3 weeks of this being released, we've done some really considerable research just by playing games. So games can be a really fantastic way to solve problems. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the type of game. So once we settled on making a game, tell you about the type of game that we built with Human Ad Server. It's called a resource management game. There are lots of fancy words. I'm going to try to just kind of say it in basic terms. A resource management game is a game where you collect and manage things, and you do this with imperfect information. So, so you don't actually know all the factors that are going on at the same time. You want to have like a complex system of resource management for it to be more interesting, because when you have complex resource management and compelling choices that you can make, you end up with imperfect decisions, and imperfect decisions create interesting strategy, which is fun. Okay, that was a mouthful. Let's just look at some examples of resource management game, and hopefully it'll kind of make sense. So I'm going to show a picture, and you guys can all call out, or if no one talks, then I don't know. We'll just try. Call out if you think it's a resource management game or not. So Monopoly.
Yes.
Right. So we're going around the board. You're collecting money. You're collecting property. You're deciding whether or not to buy things, which is kind of interesting. And there's an unknown element, right? The roll of the dice. Okay. Here's another one. SimCity. Right.
Yes.
Resource management game, right? You don't know when there's going to be a tornado, and you're managing the taxes, and you're collecting money and building. Online dating.
Yes.
Yes, It's terrible gameplay, but it's a resource management game where you're managing your time and there's a ton of unknowns. Mario. Not really a resource management game. Connect 4. No. Not a resource management game. Baseball. Yes.
Yeah.
If there's a salary cap, it's definitely a resource management game, right?
Even within a game.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of neat, right? All right. Now I'm going to give you a crash course in human ad server. So we've just talked about why we built this. We talked about why games are really effective, and now we're going to talk about human ad server in specific. So this is human ad server. It's ultimately a matching game. There's two types of cards. One type of card has symbols on it. You have to match it with the symbols on the other card. As we've talked about, it's really tricky to explain the rules of the game. It's much easier to show a game. So I'm going to load up one of the other parts of the Hackathon project, which Ginny and Chen. Oh, yes. And Chen put together during the Hackathon. Okay. Here is human ad server. The rules are slightly different in this version. There's two types of cards. There's advertising contracts called placements. So you can draw these placements as much as you want. Each round, there's 10 rounds. You flip over an ad request. That's a good one. And you decide which of these ad contracts are going to serve to this ad request. But first you have to match. So we need to match. This will only count if you match it to a placement that matches the symbol. So you can see there's the who, the what, and the where. Family Guy watching comedy on a TV. And here's an advertisement for TV. It says how many impressions you need to deliver to earn this budget. So you get money when you deliver advertising contracts. And you actually lose money if the advertising contract doesn't complete in these number of rounds, or if the game ends after the 10 rounds, you haven't completed the budget. It's the whole game. Okay. It's pretty simple. Okay, so here, we'll just go through a few rounds together. So free, it only matches this one, so we'll deliver it here. It completes. We can create more placements. So we're managing the risk of how many placements that we're putting up that might lose money versus the risk that an ad request might not match anything, because then we'd actually lose that ad request and only have 10 to deliver. And you're managing those resources in order to optimize the amount of money that you make by the end of the game. And the unknown element, of course, is you don't know what placement is going to come out, and you don't know what request is going to come out. All right, so that's the game. So let's go back to the presentation before we start talking about actually playing it. And we'll talk about what we learned. So some things we learned about ad serving. One, pacing curves aren't actually that complicated. So pacing curves that I can click on here, I'll try clicking on one and see how it goes. This is a hub document on pacing curves. And it's really big, right? It's just this long document with graphs that explain how it works and how to use it. This is something that you do intuitively through the game, where you're like, oh, well, this actually matches two placements. This one has more time left than this one, so maybe I'll put it to the other one because it doesn't have as much opportunity. That's a pacing curve. And people learn this huge hub doc just by playing the game without actually having to understand what this is. Another one, content targeting. Content targeting is just matching, right? You guys thought you were probably like, oh, it's a matching game. That probably sounded really simple. It is. But content targeting has a hub doc that's even longer than the first one I showed you.
Who wrote those documents?
Yeah.
Sounds really handsome devil.
Thank you.
And then another one that I couldn't find the hub doc for, custom delivery logic. The strategy that you apply to playing the game ultimately is custom delivery logic. And you actually apply very advanced concepts to how you're playing the game without knowing it. And we thought that was really effective. And my proof point, the people, my parents, who didn't know what I did for 6 years, beat my all-time high high score the first time they played the game. So this is extremely accessible. It teaches you extremely deep concepts, and it does it in a pretty fun way.
So you're saying my parents who haven't understood in 15 years should also play this game?
Yes, absolutely.
You should play with the client.
All right, so
That'll be like, that's your onboarding, right? The first
Yeah.
meeting with FreeWheel team.
That's the only thing that can come you.
So, yeah, the minimum score. So, now we're going to transition into the tournament. We're going to play a variant on the game I just showed you. Still a matching game, except this time you're competing with a few other people at the same time. So, this game's slightly different. I think there's enough of us here who have played it so we can, kind of make sure these tournament goes well. I'm going to break it into, I was thinking, we have enough time for it's a three-person game works best. So maybe we'll see how many three-people game we get, and then we'll just kind of form a tournament structure, and whoever wins will give a copy of the game. The difference is, at all times you have 2 placements, so you're not deciding how many placements you want. You're going to ignore the flight dates, so they don't expire. And now, whenever there's a ad request flipped over, you're going to bid for it against the other players. And we'll do a second price bidding auction. I'll explain what that is in just a second when we actually get the teams up. And whoever wins that gets to deliver their ad. Okay. And then, you're paying those bidding chips. And then at the end of the game, whoever makes the most money from their placements wins. And we'll go to the next round.
So in life, there's 2 variants of gameplay. One's a solitaire version, and then one's like a bidding version. Yeah? No?
Wait, do you say in life there's
Like
2 variants of gameplay?
Not for the
One of them is solitaire.
I just meant not in the tournament setting.
So we've developed
When you
2
take
flavors of the game. Human Ad Server Shortform, which is the single-player version, and Human Ad Server Real-Time Bidding, which is the multiplayer version. We are going to conduct a Human Ad Server Real-Time Bidding tournament. The first ever Human Ad Server Real-Time Bidding tournament. All right. And so this is my last slide. So you're going to want to assemble into teams of 3, and then we'll find, raise your hand if you've played this game before, and we'll make sure that this goes smoothly. Kurt, I know for a fact you've done this.
I've literally never played.
Have I played the RTV version?
Yeah, okay. So why don't us 4 get together, stand up. We could probably stop recording now. This part's done. And we'll transition into actually playing the game.